Hi, I'm Miguel Unson. I wanted to share one of the processes I've been working on using Bullseye, frit, and stringer to get some exciting lines in your kiln work. I found that stringer really allows us to capture some of that excitement and some of that motion that happens inside the kiln under the influence of gravity and heat. And this process is quite accessible, doesn't involve a huge amount of setup. I encourage you to try it, to come up with your own variations and share any discoveries that may come out of working with this technique. So right now, I've prepared some kiln dams. I've protected my shelf with one sheet of thin fire paper. And the thin fire keeps me from scratching any shelf primer that I might have placed on the base. So actually, the shelf it's not primed, but the thin fire keeps a nice surface that won't scratch on me. I'm aiming for an 18 by 18 square. So I'm about to pour 10 pounds of frit into this containment system, so I need to make sure to protect myself with a respirator. I'm going to start with 5 pounds of black frit, which I'm going to smooth out with this popsicle stick, and then I'm going to pour 5 pounds of French vanilla frit into the center. So working with this amount of frit, it's incredibly fun, but it also lets me, shape and sculpt the material, working with glass in a way that isn't obvious to someone who thinks of kiln forming as involving nothing but cutting and scoring sheet glass. This is an entirely different way of working, one that I find extremely fun and very freeing. Now I'm about to prepare my stringers. I have 4 tubes of French vanilla and 4 tubes of black, and I like to break them into thirds. So this is 2 pounds of stringer and 10 pounds of frit. So now I'm ready to begin placing my stringers onto my frit bed. Your frit bed has to be deep enough to support a vertically placed stringer, and the depth of my frit bed is about an inch. I also marked out some guidelines for myself in the frit because I want my composition to be quite centered. Now I'm pushing all the way down to the base. Now I am grabbing a few at a time, making sure they're all aligned. Hold them, and I like to hold them this way and alternate a few in my fingers, and go ahead and place them into our frit. I'm starting in the center, and I'm going to work to around here. So much of kiln work is based on precision and accuracy. I wanted to see what would happen if I played with those notions and reversed them a little bit. In a medium where so much is planned in advance, this technique invites the random occurrence. When these stringers start to melt and fall, they're going to interact with each other and affect the motion of all the neighboring stringers around it. Now I can smooth out my frit bed a little bit, now that all the stringers are in place. So there is quite a large amount of glass here in the middle of my mold. Now I've deliberately put them into this tight mass, almost this cube in the middle of the dam, so that they will interact with each other more. They're going to start to collide, and each stringer will have an effect on the one next to it, almost like a flock of birds. At least that's what I am guessing. A huge part of this is left up to chance, and for me, that's the best part. I can do all this planning, all this setup, and I can be completely surprised by what the kiln gives me. And the more of that can happen, the happier I am. So now, we're going to take this very gently to the kiln. So much of this is unplanned. Every curve, every nuance, every gradient, even every bubble. I try and maximize the evidence of gravity and heat in the kiln, because I couldn't have sat down and planned every single nuance of this piece. You and I were among the first to see that action in the kiln, where the stringers began to melt and interact with each other under the influence of gravity with almost no intervention from me. The finishing work I've done is really quite minimal, is really meant to bring out the complexity and detail of the glass itself, from the belt sanding to the sandblasting, the fire polish, and the slump. It's really about emphasizing the natural motion and the action that we captured in the kiln. Thanks to Bullseye for helping make this happen, and I hope you're excited to see this as I was, and I encourage you to try this technique for yourself. Thanks so much.